back again, back at it like a bad habit. It's Ron Review React, and we are gonna review and react to Marvel's What If. Now, this 9-episode series, season 1, is loosely based on the Marvel comic line of What If, which pretty much will take a popular character or a popular event from the Marvel canon, slightly alter it, and show you the ramifications and the impact on said Marvel universe. Now, the first episode starts with What If Captain Carter were the first Avenger? And with this episode, it's very reminiscent or similar to the cinematic movie Captain America's the First Avenger. Only difference is, well, instead of Steve receiving the super soldier serum, Peggy Carter does. And kind of plays out as you would think. Solid first episode. Not overly, superly action-packed. It's got its humor, got its quirks. One thing you start to notice instantly is the cell shade on the animation. I really did like it. It was beautiful. It's like watching the game Beautiful Joe. Like, the cell shade is reminiscent of the Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 games and things like that, when they really started heavily cell shading the video game, but yet it's almost like it's a comic book come to life. Like you're watching a comic panel just come alive in animation. It's really, really beautiful artwork. I really enjoyed that. That being said, the episode overall, with it being visually stunning, it was an okay, decent start to the series to kind of let you know what you're in for. I would rate episode 1 6 out of 10. Moving on to episode 2, What If T'Challa Became Star-Lord? Now, I have to say, hearing Chadwick Boseman, his voice again, his voice acting, his presence again on camera, quote unquote, it's really good to hear. And then one of my criticisms, I know it's blasphemy, with Black Panther was T'Challa was probably the least interesting character in the bunch. Killmonger kind of stole the show. Even T'Challa's sister was pretty entertaining. He was kind of dried down and a little bland, to be honest. In this episode, you get to see T'Challa actually have a lot of charisma. And maybe it's just, hindsight being 2020 with the tragic passing of Chadwick, sorry. Maybe that just adds a little bit more brightness to his role in this and his voice work. But all in all, I think his portrayal as Star-Lord was ironically better as Star-Lord than Black Panther. He was just leaking charisma. The episode in itself was pretty entertaining, and you kind of see, no spoiler, but T'Challa makes a damn good Star-Lord. You do see that. This episode was probably one of the standout ones, and I would have to give this one 8 out of 10. Moving on to What If Earth's Mightiest Heroes Were Lost? This one it takes a turn for the darker side, and it's something that kind of carries on into more episodes as we progress forward into this series, this season. It's one of the darker ones. I liked it because it was a pretty good, honestly, it was a pretty good murder mystery. Like, it starts out kind of like have you seen that? If you haven't seen the movie Knives Out, it comes off as a Marvel's version of Knives Out. It's like a whodunit. Who did it? We're playing Clue with these Marvel characters. And honestly, I kind of like that. It was a pretty dark episode. It's kind of where the tone starts to go in and starts to trend into these later episodes. All in all, I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil the mystery of it. But all in all, I have to give episode 3 an 8 out of 10. Did enjoy it. Moving on to number 4. What if, instead of losing his hands, Doctor Strange lost his heart? This episode, it's It's really dark. Let's go off and say that. It's really dark, but some of its efforts in being dark after the first, second, or third time you see it kind of starts to become unintentionally comical, unintentionally funny. Like, my best comparison to this episode would be that of Final Destination. Like, after the first 2 or 3 like deaths or death scenes, after that, instead of you being like, oh my gosh, that was tragic, it starts to come off as, oh wow, I can't wait to see how this next person dies, or I can't wait to see how it happens this time or that time. And then it becomes kind of comical, like, oh my God, he got hit with this, or he got smashed with this. Oh, I didn't see that coming. He got hit with this. That's kind of how the episode starts to dissolve into, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it does come off unintentionally funny at some points and kind of cuts at the knees, the tragedy of the episode. But that being said, it was still entertaining. One of the darker episodes so far, outside of episode 3, where it starts to take the dark turn. This is probably slightly darker, if I'm gonna give it that. And it has ramifications going on towards future episodes. I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 7 out of 10. We move on to episode number 5, What If Zombies? This episode plays out like pretty much an animated version of The Walking Dead for the most part. This is another episode where I do feel like it gets undercut by the humor that it seems that Marvel has to kind of put into their properties at all times. And I guess they try and use it to levy the drama and the tragedy and the tense moments that are shown on screen, but it gets so undercut with jokes a lot of the time that I feel like it kind of takes the air out of its sails when it comes to the tragedy and the heartstrings getting pulled at. All in all, though, I do think Marvel Zombies were entertaining, because that's essentially what it is, Marvel Zombies. It was very entertaining, or not, it was pretty entertaining, and kept my attention the whole time through. The ending kind of anticlimactic, but wasn't bad at all. This one, I have to go ahead and give it a 6 out of 10. Now, episode 6, what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark instead of, who was it that rescued him? He didn't actually that's right, he fought his way out. He didn't get rescued. He fought his way out, linked up, spoiler alert for Iron Man if you haven't seen it, linked up with old boy, helped him build a suit, broke out. This episode is pretty much going to play out like you think it's going to play out. I don't want to spoil it, but Killmonger rescuing Tony Stark in the desert, saving him from the 10 rings, it's going to play out just like you think, because Killmonger at this time still has similar plans to the Black Panther movie. So it pretty much, it's going to end how you want it to end. But it doesn't take away from the overall entertainment of the episode. Michael B. Jordan does a great job doing his voice work. One of the better ones that's doing their job. They have somebody that's kind of portraying Tony Stark, but not Tony Stark. He does a decent job. I think he's the one that they call to do the animation, basically budget Tony Stark, budget Robert Downey Jr. He pretty much does it pretty well. All in all, this episode, I have to give it, it's probably going to be the lower rating that I give episodes. But I'm going to go ahead and say, Michael B's voice work on the episode is pretty exceptional. I like it. We'll go ahead and give this one a 6 out of 10. Next up, we have episode 7, which is, what if Thor was an only child? This is another episode. You're pretty much it's Party Thor. It's kind of like Thor meets Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If that's something you're not interested in, you're not going to like this episode. If it's something that, you know Thor has a lot of charisma, his character has a lot of charisma, and it is voiced by Chris Hemsworth. So if you're into the Thor, the quote unquote dumb Thor meets Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you're going to have a lot of fun with this episode. Me, it kind of wore a little bit thin. What I get from this episode is, hey, Thor just want to party. Let bruh party. Even though it has ramifications to worlds, universes, and all that, let Thor party. All in all, this being one of the more comical episodes overall, much more family friendly, real lighthearted for the most part, until the end kind of takes a little dark twist. All in all, average episode, 5 out of 10. Now, 8 and 9, it's part 1 and part 2. With 8 and 9, I'm going to try and cover these kind of together. I'm going to separate them slightly, but I'm going to cover it together. 8, what if Ultron wins? Or what if Ultron won? He completed his journey. It's pretty dark, pretty bleak, but it starts to kind of, this episode is kind of Marvel's first filler episode, because they're kind of just filling in, building, filling in to the finale. It's a pretty good episode. It's kind of like this episode, the season 1 takes a deep breath and just kind of builds on where we're going to go into the next episode. Not too much crazy nuances until there's a great part at the end where it's just kind of like funny, but like, oh, yeah, hey. Because through this whole season, you have this looming presence that's in the background in all of the episodes. No spoiler, it's the Watcher. He narrates the series. You're going to be very familiar with him by the time the series kicks off. And there's a cool little twister thing at the end that's kind of like, oh, okay, I'm very interested into where this goes. All in all, episode 8, it being a builder/filler episode, I give it a 7 out of 10. Now, episode 9 is where the proverbial ish hits the fan. That's where 8 episodes prior all build up and accumulate into this, the finale. And the finale, I'm going to say, delivers, has a great fight scene. I like the fight scene a lot. You got a bunch of people teaming up. It's pretty much Avengers meets Guardians of the Galaxy. You got a bunch of people meeting up, linking up to try and stop this looming threat. It is what it is. You have this clash of heroes / anti-heroes / villains that link up to fight a big bad. It's strong. It still builds on the world and what we've actually seen thus far in the series. It builds on a lot of that and pays off a lot of that. Its fight scene is incredible. The ending, it kind of ends predictably, like you kind of see sprinkles of this through the episode, and where it ends, you're kind of like, yeah, I seen that coming. And don't take that as a negative, because it is not, but you do kind of see where it's coming. And then the end, I would have to say slightly anticlimactic, but the fight scene, the build-up, all that before that doesn't, I'm not going to let the slight critiques take away from that. All in all, the finale was the strongest episode, in my opinion, with a 8.5 out of 10. Great episode, very entertaining. Everything that it built up for paid off to me at the end, even though it was slightly anticlimactic. All in all, with the average rating, if I was going to averagely rate, or if I was going to average each of the ratings that I rated all 9 episodes. It'll come to a 6.8, about a 7, which is kind of where it stands for me. 5 being average, 4 being below average, 6 being above average. 7, it's a good watch. It is a good watch, very enjoyable, good content. It comes off as pretty much Marvel's Twilight Zone, which is a good breath of fresh air. And ironically, the animated series is a lot darker than what we have seen in the cinematic universe thus far. It takes real dark turns, and while still maintaining its family-friendly Disney atmosphere. It does a good job at that. Some episodes, the tone isn't balanced as well, but all in all, most of the episodes, the tone is balanced decently. It's pretty much Marvel's Twilight Zone. I can't stress that enough. And that being said, it is a watch. I would give it, like I said, 7 out of 10. Your family could watch it. The younger ones, you might have to explain some stuff, but good watch, good watch. I don't think I need to see a season 2 of this, though, to be 100% honest. I like what they did with season 1. Let's close it off. I don't need a season 2 right now. Maybe a couple years down the road to where their cinematic universe builds out more, and then we have more familiar characters that we're bringing in maybe down the line. But I don't need another season 2 no time soon. This is enough for right now. 7 out of 10. Ron Review and React, and this is another one in the bag. Sorry for it to be late, but better late than never. Let's get it. Make sure you like, click, share, subscribe,